I gotta say, New Amsterdam Radio is brought to you in part by Anchor FM. Have you ever thought about making your own podcast? You see, when I was trying to get this podcast off the ground, I had a lot of questions. How do I record an episode? How do I get my show into all the apps people like to listen? How do I make money from my podcast? And most importantly, I don't want to deal with cables and wires and all those things. You see, the answer to every single one of these questions is pretty simple. Anchor. Anchor is the one-stop shop for recording, hosting, and distributing your podcast. And best of all, it's 100% free and ridiculously easy to use. And you can use your phone, which is pretty awesome. Now, Anchor can match you with great sponsors who want to advertise on your podcast. That means you can get paid to podcast right away. In fact, that's what I'm doing right now by reading this ad. So if you ever wanted to start a podcast and make money doing it, go to anchor.fm/start. That's anchor.fm/start to join me and the diverse community of podcasters already using Anchor. That's anchor.fm/start. I can't wait to hear your podcast. Welcome to New Amsterdam Radio. Hello, everyone. It's Flobo Voice here, and this is the podcast for creatives. New Amsterdam is a city for creatives, and I guess by default, I am the mayor. How is everyone doing? It's the spooky season. You know, it's Halloween season. By the time this airs, this will be right before the holiday itself. I'm not sure if you're out there trick-or-treating or socially distancing trick-or-treating or just buying the bags of candy for yourself and eating them on the corner. That's what I recommend. That's the safest way to do it. A lot of things going on in my world before we get to our fantastic interview with comedian, actor, and podcaster Adam Carr. Just first things first. So this is episode 76. And if you guys have been with the New Amsterdam Radio movement from the beginning, because arbitrarily 25 is my favorite number, I made sure that every season of New Amsterdam Radio has 25 episodes. So technically, episode 76 is the season premiere of season 4 of this podcast, which is something I did not think would happen. You know, I was a guy that kind of did this on my phone using the Anchor app. I'm an Anchor advocate for it. Not officially, they don't pay me, but you know what I'm saying? Well, they do kind of pay me. But anyway, what I'm saying is that I was sitting in my car and almost sheepishly talking to my phone because I thought no one would even listen. No one would care about this, I thought, dry idea of talking to other creatives or just interpreting what was happening in the world and adapting that for creatives, because I didn't have guests at first, and it's totally grown and blossomed, and those who liked and commented and shared and followed and checked it out, you know, look, my ratings are not going to compete with a Joe Rogan experience, but I'm proud because I was able to build it. One of my favorite lines from hip hop is from Eric Sermon, who said, "It may not be nothing, but I wrote this here." You know. Also, on my end of things, I relaunched newamsterdam.com. For a while, newamsterdam.com just kind of forwarded over to the Spotify list of this show and its episodes, but I decided to put all my digital efforts under the New Amsterdam Entertainment umbrella. So big news. I was able to really establish the business officially over here in Los Angeles, and to show everyone at a glance all the shows that I'm hosting or producing over at newamsterdam.com. That's KNEW Amsterdam.com. So check it out when you have a chance. Maybe if you have a second screen, you know, play the podcast on one, open a new tab, check out newamsterdam.com. But before I drown you out with all of my promotions, just real quick, support the show, especially now we're into the holiday season. If you can spare a dime, a moment of your time at patreon.com/FloboVoice, you get to unlock full interviews and bonus content for all of my digital efforts, and you can buy a t-shirt over at flobito.threadless.com. It makes a great gift. Support the arts. Now it's time for my talk with Adam Carr, because Adam Carr is a guy that I worked with a bunch of times. We were on the after show for the first season of the Netflix show, The Politician, over at AfterBuzz TV Networks, and we became really good friends. It's cool to see him working on things. I was a guest on his podcast, Horribly Hollywood Single. I always get that name confused because I'm like, there's so many H's there. And we are also comedians, so we had a chance to connect on that. Really fun guy. You should really follow him after the show. But enough of me rambling because I rambled so long on the season premiere episode. Let's get right to it. It's Adam Carr on New Amsterdam Radio. We are not live from the mayor's office of the city of New Amsterdam. Hello, everyone. I am being joined by a man who is so funny. His handle literally says funny guy. I listen to his comedy specials. I stare at his hands because he's a hand model. And not only that, he has one of the fantastic podcasts of all time and horribly Hollywood single. Give it up for the man himself, Adam Carr. How you doing, man?
Thank you. That's an introduction I could never possibly live up to.
All true, though.
Yeah, very true. You're very kind. I always do the opposite. It's like bringing a lady to bed. I just want to go, hey, maybe it'll last more than 5 minutes. Maybe it'll be great for you. Maybe it'll do things. I'm not sure, but you really set the bar. So
I'm like, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Happens all the time. I told you, it happens all the time.
I'm so sorry. I'm out of questions.
I told you that.
So 2020 has come and basically torpedoed everything. First question, though. I was a guest on your show, Horribly Hollywood Single, which is really fun to say super fast. Oh, thank you. And I was nervous because your show...
You're great.
Well, thank appreciate that. But I was nervous because I felt like I wasn't living life. I felt like I was not like my counterparts in the 20s and 30s because your shows goes pretty deep sometimes. Now, the question I have for you as a host is how do you make people feel at home when they're talking about their sex life, their dating life, their Hollywood life on a show like that?
Great question. I think it's more or less like I'm no longer on the prowl. I'm happily engaged and getting married next year. But
congratulations.
Thank you. I found someone who could stand me. I think Wait,
this is charity work for you then? You do the podcast help by other people who are single?
Exactly. No, I think what it is a little bit, it's almost like the initial stages of dating a little bit where each guest, when I talk to them, I feel like I need to make them feel comfortable. I need to make them feel like they want to talk to me. And it's a little bit like dating where you're kind of like, hey, we're about to have this thing. I'm going to make you feel safe so that you want to talk to me and maybe share some stuff. But also, too, it's not usually people want to share it in the end. I've had some friends who say, I love the idea of the show. I'm never going to come on there because I still want my wife or husband to talk to me at the end of the day. And I don't want to talk about some Coke fueled threesome that I had in my 20s that I've never shared. A lot of people have stuff that they've never even shared with their partners, let alone, they don't want to necessarily just share it with other people. So to me, I think it's just about making people feel comfortable and just kind of saying, hopefully you think I'm not a douchebag and you want to spend some time with me. And if you do, you want to share some stuff. Because my thing at the end of the day is I'm the most messed up one out of anybody. I'm not I'm not here to cast a stone and say, wow, you're really messed up. Usually I'm like, oh, wow, I understand. Loneliness fueled a lot of my horribly Hollywood days. So to me, it's just about making people feel comfortable. And hopefully, as I was very lucky to find guests like you who were just very charming and wonderful to come on. And I just had a great vibe. So to me, it's also, too, just about who you talk to and who you're bringing on. You have a pretty good idea. Sometimes, maybe one or two people, they said they wanted to talk about stuff and then they kind of don't. And I can tell like they want to move away from the topics. Or you have other people who say, I don't really think I have any stories, but I'll come on. And then they come on and then they just unleash and they tell they were like, oh, wow, I did not know that.
Definitely in that camp. Yeah.
At the end of the day, we all have stuff that we've done in our past that we're like, oh, I think we've all had one of those moments where we wake up the next morning, there's a couple of Taco Bell bags on the floor and we go, I drove last night. Like, I think we all have one of those moments. So that's,
I did touch upon this before, but you are a comedian, the funny guy 85. I actually watched and listened, so I did it twice, to your comedy special at the Sycamore, which is a cool venue. Talk to me about that, because I've done comedy specials before, but yours looks super legit. You had like a little black and white intro. It was like, Bill Burr, just kidding, Adam Carr. And you had your material. Like, walk me through that for people who may be doing comedy that worked their way up to a special, if you will.
That's very kind. I look to the movie Rocky, in particular, Apollo Creed, Carl Weathers. instead of being in the gym and training like he should have been for the whole fight leading up, right? What's he doing? Apollo Creed, he's sending flowers to the mayor's wife. He's worried about PR events. The lesson I always took from Rocky was stick to exactly what you know. And if you don't know something else, that's okay. But find someone else who knows exactly what the hell they're doing so that you're not trying to do 5 things at once. And so for me, that person, that go-to guru who is a master DP, who is a master director, who is a master editor, that person for me is Craig Tovey. He is my silver bullet. Craig Tovey is you've probably seen him on Omaze commercials, like raffling off cars. He has a show online with Ryan Legod. They co-host called Storytime, where they read kids' books. But Craig, I worked on a show, The Call Room, which was a online series that we got funded on Kickstarter for $25K a few years back. And I just basically told Craig, I'm like, hey, I got to go up at Sycamore Tavern. I have 15 minutes. I got a lot of people coming out. Could you help me shoot something? And so what you're seeing all right there, that was all done within an hour with Craig. We went outside, we shot the exteriors, we went inside, he shot my intro. He knows exactly how to shoot something, make it look beautiful, make it sound great, and then literally cut it all together over the next week and hand it to me. It was just one of the nicest, so I would say if you're looking, for someone, I don't know if he regularly does it, he'll put up with me and he'll do that and just be like, hey, like you're doing great. For everyone else, I think he's like, screw off. I want my weekends to myself, but I appreciate that. But that honestly is all Craig Tovey, because as I've learned in the end, you could have amazing jokes. You could have an amazing set. Everything could be just solid and tight. But if it looks like crap and if it sounds like crap and if it's not something that you can really get out there to the masses, then it doesn't matter. Like if it's crap, no one can hear it or see it. It doesn't matter how funny you are. So it also has to be great. So I appreciate that. But that's all the genius of Craig Tovey.
So you didn't learn how to give flowers to mayor's wives. I was just so confused with that story. I was like, oh man, maybe I would have sweet talked the wives of politicians.
In the past, I flirted with too many mayor's wives. I had to stay.
Living in America.
Oh, it's so good.
Yeah, that was Paul, Rocky IV.
Well, Thanksgiving's coming up. We got to watch Rocky over Thanksgiving.
I haven't seen Creed 2. Creed? Do you count Creed series as this attenuation, or is that a separate thing? Like,
I count it as a continuation of the Rocky canon, specifically because they went to Sylvester Stallone for it, and then he really, I think because he was so a part of it, and they set it up now. I mean, Michael B. Jordan, I think, is the perfect vessel to continue that. So I can consider it a part of the canon. Just like Rocky V is, even though you wish it wasn't, but it still is. Yeah.
I like Rocky VI. I call it 6. I don't care. It's my favorite one. Rocky Balboa. Yeah.
It's not until now where you're just like, oh wow, like he's like 55, 58, 60.
Stallone's in his 60s.
He's like 70 something now. He's like 71, 72.
That is intense. I know most of it's steroids, but that's still intense.
Oh yeah. Oh, it's definitely yes. I was caught in Australia. When was this? This was like right after the Expendables or something. The first one came out, and they were like, Sylvester Stallone was detained in Australia at the airport. Like, they don't know why he was detained. And then there was like a little side verb that was like, the only way you can be detained at the airport is for drugs or steroids or like. Okay,
he has like a lab of like HGH. What's wrong with that? It's getting all the way.
And then like, really, I just want to go home and get big, swole.
Your favorite Sly movie?
Favorite Sly movie?
Yeah. 74, by the way. I looked it up.
Oh, 74. Wow. Yeah. We should all be so lucky. Jesus.
The steroids.
40 years older than me. Could kick my ass. I'm going to have to go with, I think, Rocky 2 will always be my favorite one. What about you?
I don't know, man. That's the thing. Sylvester Stallone is one of those guys where I like more, and I'll defend him more when we have those like Arnold type things, but it's not one that sticks out. I guess Rocky 6 is the only I can think of. It'd be like, oh, that was sick. But like, I mean, he was Rambo, man. I mean, he was the Expendables dude. Like, he wears a suit really nice. I mean, what can he do?
I think he just hooked in with Rocky. Rocky Balboa is, I think, the character that he wished he could have been in real life. I Like he wasn't necessarily a great husband. Seems like he was a great father, but it seems like, he had trouble with fidelity, all that stuff, like little things here or there, whatever character flaws. I feel like he always knew how to lock in to Rocky Balboa. And he could always play that no matter what. And I think that actually that role transformed his acting and did a lot more. Someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger, you wouldn't care if they could act. It was never about acting in the Terminator franchises or anything like that.
Right.
But Stallone really showed up to play. He's really, and there's a difference between the first Rocky and, Creed.
You mentioned real quickly the Call Room, which I actually saw a couple clips for. Have a very kind of cool, quirky style in the postmodern comedy space. I mean, how is that transitioning your work from the stage to a show like that?
To me, it was just kind of necessity. Stage work, I went to UCLA. I studied acting. I was working on some stuff. One of my dear friends from UCLA, her name is Beth Bears, who's on Two Broke Girls and now The Neighborhood. And we had shot a couple of sketches and shorts that they watched at CBS and then subsequently cast her in the show. So I kept moving forward with kind of like, writing and producing and making my own stuff. And I had an idea for an office comedy. I've worked for 14 years for a beautiful nonprofit theater called the Geffen Playhouse in Westwood, which is very much moving forward now amidst everything in the pandemic. We've started what we call the Geffen Stay House, virtual theater, which is done via Zoom. So you can log to your laptop, see a show. It's really cool what we're doing now. We have magic shows. We have a puzzle show. We have a new murder mystery detective show, Citizen Detective, coming out. But I had met Craig through UCB, Craig Tovey, who I talked about earlier, and we kind of had this idea based on my time working. We did in-house telemarketing at the Geffen for a little bit. And there was a girl that I really fell hard for and fast, who ended up being like a sex act and was seeing me and the other guy that I was working with in this office room at the same time. So it was like close quarters, overly dramatic. I was just a drunken mess. I was all over the place. And we wrote 8 episodes. We shot 7. Did Kickstarter, raised the $25K, then raised another 10 in post. But it was one of the coolest experiences that I've ever had, where I feel like Craig and I both sharpened our teeth on indie filmmaking and just kind of that, just being that Swiss Army knife where you have to do 6 different things at once and kind of handle them all pretty quick. And it was a tremendous experience. It was a lot of work. It was a lot of, at the time, you want to get something put up on the air. You want it to get picked up by somebody else and kind of be legitimized that way. And I think what I didn't realize is just how much fun we had, the skills that we acquired working on everything. But it was a very cool feeling just to say, like, we accomplished this. We did our season 1. And, it's a group of people that I would just work with again and again. Those actors, Alexa Rose, Jonathan Schwartz, Nathaniel Meek, Sean Harrison Jones, Ryan Legod was in it, who's also one of our writers. It was just really, really fantastic work that everybody did.
Yeah, just as a quick pro tip for someone who wants to learn how to do Kickstarter, make it work for them, like how'd you able to leverage your network to pitch in an idea? Like, what do you have to do if someone's like, oh man, I would love this crazy idea, but Kickstarter isn't working out for me? Like, what would you tell them?
You really got to network out there like you've never networked before. That means every platform possible.
Sell yourselves out.
That also means, LinkedIn, things that you never thought you'd do, MySpace, whatever. You talk to every person possible. Also, if you can, you need to stack the deck so that you have some big donors in there who can help give you a boost. Because at the end of the day, it's also, I think, individual messaging really works. You have to talk to each person, and that means if you have 10,000 people in your friends list or whoever you're talking to, that means 10,000 individual messages. That means you get out as much as you have to, and you talk to every person. I also found too that people worry about the perks or whatever they should do, like for Kickstarter or Indiegogo. People want stuff that is attached to your show. They want stuff that is tangible. They don't really care about, I think at the time I was trying to raffle off like go to a taping of Two Broke Girls or do this and this. And if things aren't connected to your project and what you're doing,
people
don't care. It's just like everything else. Like if you were, online, if you were entering in for a Green Lantern sweepstakes and they were like, enter this and we'll send you a Superman t-shirt. You'd be like, why would you send me Superman? You're for Green Lantern. So it's just one of those things. You want everything to connect. But you have to be an army. You have to be a pleasant stalker. You have to just kind of like, hey, what's up? Like, I know we talked last week, maybe have some time, and people can say, am I allowed to swear?
Yeah.
Cool. People can say like fuck off a million times, but you just have to kind of show up. And my fiance, she has a 6-year-old niece and a 1.5-year-old little guy. So I always just forget sometimes. I'm like, and then I start swearing and she's like, there's kids here. I'm like, all right.
Well, they'll learn someday, either here or public school.
They have to learn. They have to learn.
So you mentioned your fiance, man. You're getting married. I can't believe it. Not to say you can't find happiness. It's always a milestone that, like having kids, it's a miracle. Many people do it, but when it happens, it's like, oh my goodness. What's that looking like for you? I know the whole venue game and the guest limits in certain venues in LA and LA County has been kind of in flux with the COVID-19 pandemic. But day to day, how does that feel planning a wedding?
This is such an important answer. I put on my ultra conditioning Burt's Bees for this. So let me
selling out on my show too. What do you think?
That's why I drink Waterloo. So anyway, I think so.
Yeah. Put it over.
So I proposed to her in Maui, where it's this place called Haiku Mill, where she wanted to. It's like a wedding venue that's like Instagram famous, and I think some Survivor people and Real Housewives, like people have had parties there or whatever. So I knew that I was going to propose to her there. And then I kind of worked it out ahead of time. I called her mom. I'm just kind of setting up the whole story here. So where I was like, hey, I love your daughter. I want to marry her. I want to spend the rest of my life with her. She's my favorite person. And she was like, oh, great. And, we love you. And I was like, awesome. So am I paying for this wedding or are you? Because it's okay if I am, but there are going to be some different choices. But I just want to know. And they were like, oh,
so romantic.
I know, very romantic, right? But she goes, oh, we're paying for our daughter's wedding. I was like, cool. Here's option A. And just FYI, I have not researched any other place. I'm like, but she really, she wants to get married here. And so at first they're like, no way. And then they go, let's think about it. And then they go, all right, you know what? Screw it. Fuck it. Inflation. Let's go.
Yeah. So, that's cool. Real cool.
I decided I was going to propose to her there in the ruse of that we couldn't get married there, but we were going to at least take a tour and, check it out. And, the whole time we're getting ready, we spent the week in Maui, and I remember I had like all these different Hawaiian shirts. And she pointed to one and she's like, you have these ridiculous Hawaiian shirts, but if you're going to ask me any questions, pick this one. So I'm like, okay, well, clearly I can't wear that shirt. So I picked one of my favorite ones, which she thought was rather loud.
Oh, and she saw it coming then. She thought this proposal was coming.
She thought that she knew it was coming sometime around. She didn't know when or necessarily where, which I pride myself on because I was very elusive for someone who wears their heart on their sleeves most of the time. Mm-hmm. So we took the tour and she started getting kind of teary eyed because she was like, we can't get married here. And I was like, yeah, we're living in reality. I don't know. I'm sorry. Can we just
what a jerk.
I was just staring so that she would have no idea. And then she's walking around and she was taking videos. And when she turned back around, I was there with the ring and, I said some things and I meant them. And then she said yes. And then I said, by the way, we can get married here if you want. And she was like, what? And one of the women brought out like this calendar that had marked specifically the date. And so we decided we were going to come back there. We were supposed to get married originally next month, this November. And then we had pushed it to April, just like when we got back. So we're like, let's just have more than a year. Let's like relax. And then of course this year started happening, and it's a destination wedding. So we, it's not like what an Airbnb or come out to Malibu. We'll just have our parents there. Like, we legitimately want to be able to party with our friends. So we just literally the other day, we've been going over this for like 2 months back and forth. Just pushed it to next November of 2021, November 6th, which then coincidentally will be 2 years to the date that we got engaged there. So it's definitely, it's different logistics. You're also finding out who feels comfortable doing what. I will say this, my brother just got married in Colorado, and he and his wife are nurses. And so they're very smart about stuff, but it was also, at one point there were probably 20 people in a backyard for a barbecue, and everybody was outside. People wore masks. People distanced, enough for each other to say hi. If you wanted to go up and hug someone and they were okay with it, you came up, you did that. Most people just did like the elbow thing. Everybody.
I don't get that. I'd rather not do that. I'm sorry to cut you off your story, but like the elbow thing is so dumb. It's like I feel like I'm in some kind of post-apocalyptic wasteland. I went through a wormhole and everyone's touching their elbows. I'd rather just nod and be okay.
It feels like a very affluent, like rich old white dude. Like, like it just feels very much like I don't touch you, but like you can have the elbow part. Like it definitely. I know what you mean. It definitely feels. There's something, about it. But it's speaking of Sylvester Stallone, was it Demolition Man with this wave?
Yeah. That was a classic one, man.
It was a classic, and I remember thinking at the time, I'm like, who the hell waves like that? And I was like, oh, there must have been a plague because they got used to not touching, but having the motion. Did you ever? I thought that maybe.
And that's why sex was the.
That's why I thought, because they knew that too many diseases, viruses, so they got used to not touching but still cohabiting.
That makes Taco Bell even more unsettling in that movie. That it somehow survived the plague.
You got who's the little guy? He's in all the Adam Sandler movies. It's
gonna come to you.
He was in Grown Ups with David Spade. I'm thinking of literally Kevin James. Who's that last guy? Rob
Schneider?
Yeah, Rob Schneider.
You said little guy. I was thinking the kid.
Rob Schneider, who was in. He's in
Rob Schneider's Demolition Man. Yeah.
And then he was also in Judge Dredd with Sylvester Stallone. Have you ever made that connection? Rob Schneider was in some early or some 90s slot.
Yeah, I am the law.
I am the law.
That's it. That's it.
I am the law. So, so I think it's about being smart, but also just still wanting to celebrate. And I think we wanted to push. I'm hoping we'll see what happens. But if we have a more normal president in the White House, we might in the next 6 to 7 months actually, get a clamp on this thing pretty well. I just feel like if we can be smart, then we can get back sooner to doing the things that we want to do. It's an outside destination wedding. It's in Maui. I want to bring her the magic, whatever, she deserves it. I want to give her that special day. So we pushed it back. Hopefully it all works out. If not, figure it out. 2020 is definitely a year rolling with it, but it's I think it's been a lot, but it's it's all stuff that this is what you sign up for. This is everything already. We haven't said the vows yet, but I feel like you've already lived through so much when you've just gone through 6 months of this with someone. It's just something different. You weren't counting.
It's a post-apocalyptic love story. Just shifting gears here a bit. I want to talk about the time that we met. We were at After Buzz as hosts on a television show or an after show for a television show. Well, really, what is TV? Because it was a Netflix show. Whatever. Called The Politician. And I was told, look, man, you're having a guest host and he's a hand model. And I go, the hand models don't exist. They're probably CGI'd. And then comes Adam Carr, which I don't know. I thought a hand model would be like 6 foot tall and German with wispy blonde hair, but you were obviously not that.
George Costanza was not. Remember, it's not about the rest of me, Flobo. It's just about
it's stereotype. It's a bad stereotype. But I was enamored, man. Like the dedication you have to a craft, and my nail game is weak. I'll tell you that. A hand model. Tell me how that even started and how that became like your calling card. That so much that it became a thing that people say when you're not even in the room. A hand model's on its way.
I'm honored. There's one thing that I always go in for with breakdowns on auditions, and that's typically the average man. I have the average white guy cornered. I just have one of those, a white guy working in a 90s office. Somehow I do it. But I did a bit, it was like a regular day businessman type shoot where I had to wear like a suit, and they wanted me just like in an office. It was just like for stock photos for something. And at one point I had to hold up, I'll pretend this fan is like a clock, but I had to hold up a clock like this in front of my face.
Yeah.
And then the guy was scrolling through the photos and we were going through stuff. And at first I just thought he was either joking or being weird, but he's like, "Oh wow, you have really nice hands." And I was like, "Oh, thanks." Like, we're alone right now. Why are you telling me this? But he was like, "No, really, like, have you ever considered hand modeling?" And I'm like George Costanza? And he's like, "Yeah, like George Costanza." And I'm like, is that real? Is that like a real thing? And he's like, "Yeah, it's a very real thing." And I'm like, "Oh, I had no idea." So I'm with CESD. I had been with them commercially, and then I reached out to their print department, and I was like, "Hey, this photographer guy said I have really good hands. I think we should look into hand modeling." And they were like, "Okay, yeah, well,
everyone says that.
We have a photographer. Why don't you go take some shots with her, and then you can come bring him in whenever you want. All right?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay."
You're so arrogant at this hand model.
It was very arrogant. It was very much like, "We don't think you have that stuff. Like, we've seen the best." So I take a bunch of photos with this photographer, and we come in and we have these, giant photos that are passing back and forth, and they're like, "Yeah. Oh, okay. So we can get you out today. We can. There are some roles. Yeah, we have some stuff, and you get out as much as you can." They also rep the same guys who are top line at Apple and different stuff. These big ones who are making six figures by literally not doing anything but just holding up their hands. So you go in for the, I think Pizza Hut, GE, McDonald's, the smoothies. I did that for a while. I have great. Just, they're very like feminine, smaller, like pretty hair.
They're pretty majestic, yes.
They are quite wonderful. So, it is what it is. It's been wonderful. I got into it. I will say that the work's been a little absent as of late. And I don't think anyone's going on as much as they used to. But yeah, it's definitely one of those things I did not expect it, but I graciously welcomed it.
How does that change your life, though? Do you wear mittens at the beach? You can't lift weights because of calluses. I mean, I'm just thinking about two things off the top of my head. But
honestly, your skin's pretty resilient. Just be smart. Wear gloves when you lift. I use a lot of. I talked about another product placement, Burt's Bees. Well, Burt's Bees has a tremendous hand lotion, lavender and. Forget whatever the hell else it is, but it's some of the best hand lotion. But that and
Lavender Man, I like that.
Oh, Lavender Man, yeah, I like to keep it calm. And then that and just regular manicures. I think I talk about it. I don't think I did in that special you saw, but I used to get manicures all the time at Princess Nails in Encino. I was literally like, I was their guy. Like I'd walk in, all the women would freak out. Mama Kim, who ran the store with her. Group of women, and she'll go, "Oh, VIP there, welcome back, baby. We remember you, lucky hands." Like it was very, they were always just very sweet to me. So it was wonderful. It was, "Ring, Princess Nail, may I help you?" "Oh, VIP." Like it was just,
wow, VIP access, man. Usually, I'll say 3 or 4 manicures in my life, but I was so afraid to do it. I would go. There would be a place in Brooklyn that would have manicure days for guys only. Like girls weren't allowed. And the games would be on, and a bunch of guys would be like, "My baby might be crazy, y'all." And I felt comfortable doing that. But to walk into a regular nail shop, just hello, I don't know, man. I would lose fear factor doing that. I'll eat bugs all day, but to go into a nail shop,
a very vulnerable type place. You're sitting up like in the chair, your legs are up. You're kind of like, what's going on? And it's jarring. It's jarring to say the least.
Man, you've lived 1,000,000,001 lifetimes. So before the show started, we were talking about plans for Hollywood Single, bringing it back full circle. Because I love the fact that you have a niche, you're working, you double down. What does 2021 look like for that brand?
I think for that brand, it's going to be a lot of videos. We're transitioning away from the podcast, which I really loved, but more going to 7 to 8 minute videos, kind of like BuzzFeed videos about certain topics, but those topics will all be under the umbrella now of Horribly Hollywood Single. Working with a couple different co-hosts, talking to people such as yourself, but having like a lot of panels on stuff, relationships, dating stuff. But I think transitioning from a podcast model to something that's strictly more just shorter content, online videos, stuff that can be shared. Just kind of moving to that next thing. And I, talking with like people like Kevin at AfterBuzz who were so sweet because I made the show, originally kind of created stuff around in that whole AfterBuzz TV environment. So to their credit, I was like, hey, you guys are great. Obviously things aren't moving right now. AfterBuzz is dark. But I'd like to take this show and I'd really like to develop it. And I'd like to, bring on my own producer, and my fiance now is, one of the producers as well. You said you love the stand-up. I'd say more than half that material, like she wrote for me. So we seem to work really well together. She's an introvert. She hates being in front of the camera. I love being in front of the camera. She loves writing and being behind, And so it should be fun, but a lot of video content and just a lot of, I think, new stuff that we'll be working on, different shows under the umbrella of Horribly Hollywood Single. Most likely, I think coming probably February, March 2021. Just getting a lot of stuff worked on now. And, like everything else, the landscape, if the landscape of the country keeps changing, then we'll kind of model that around what the show's doing. Sure. But I think just realizing that we had to kind of capture everything that's going on right now and kind of add that into what was going on. Otherwise, it just would feel like, oblivious white guy talking online. Can't do it.
Well, actually, Adam Carr, I want to thank you so much for being on the show, man. New Amsterdam Radio, the podcast for creators. I want you back here once the channel launches. I want to see you.
Oh my God, I love that. Yeah, please.
It'll be a good time. Where can the world find you right now online if they want to stalk you, become a part of your army, and give you money for future Kickstarter projects?
You're too kind. Well, basically, I'll be on Instagram either as myself at FunnyGuy1985 or at Horribly Hollywood Single. You can also look up Horribly Hollywood Single or The Call Room on YouTube. Check out all the episodes. Check out all the podcasts. So just anything online, I'd say The Call Room or at Horribly Hollywood Single or, one of those.
Yeah, definitely tell him your top 3 favorite Sylvester Stallone movies. He'll definitely appreciate that. Adam Carr, this guy is going to be a future legend. Do yourself a favor and follow him on all his social media channels. You're going to hear big things coming from him and his brand, and I love to see my friends do well. This is Flobo Boys. That's me. You can follow me personally on Twitter at Flobo Boys, or on Instagram at Flobito, or at Flobo Boys. That's the private account. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And the show, New Amsterdam, is available at New Amsterdam on Instagram and at @new_Amsterdam on Twitter. Both are spelled KNEW because I always felt that it was the pursuit of knowledge is what really makes us intellectuals, and intellectuals and creatives are essentially two sides of the same coin. So I didn't misspell to be cool. I'm just saying there was a point to everything. It's a season premiere episode. I could be as rowdy as I would like to be. Just a reminder, the website is newamsterdam.com, relaunched. See all the different shows under the umbrella. We're talking What's Up Flobo, our sister show, What's Up Flobo After Hours, Flobo Saw on Netflix, Commander's Log, Draped in Gold. All of those now have a home at newamsterdam.com. I'll be back next time with someone I alluded to last week. Steve Kaufman is coming in to talk about his digital journey. I can't wait for that. But until next time, as always, the city is yours.